Jurassic World Rebirth. Welcome and welcome back to the channel. My name is King Richie. Let's talk about it. Also, before I start, yes, I'm wearing the same thing for like the last 3 videos. I'm recording these back to back to back, and I have one more to back. So I'm going to have the same thing on for like 4 videos. Leave me alone. Jurassic World Rebirth is a movie that leaves a lot to be desired. You know, I think some of the criticism floating around is a little overblown. I feel like some of it feels forced, but I can understand where a lot of it is coming from. Now, don't get me wrong. I had a good time. You know, I enjoyed myself in the theater. I thought it was a good movie. But there's moments where I started to drift. Like fall asleep. Visually, it looks great. The action sequences hit. But the movie, I feel like, has an identity crisis. Instead of focusing on the characters and the regular dinosaurs that we've gotten accustomed to, this one goes all in on mutated lab-enhanced creatures. It's giving monster movie. I'll come back to that point, because that's a serious point. I'll get back to that. But aside from that, let's start with, some of the good stuff. The visuals, they do hit. The CGI is top tier. And as goofy as some of these mutated dinos are in theory, they do look incredible. Especially the D-Rex, which from what I saw prior to going into the movie is supposed to be a mix of like a T-Rex with a Xenomorph, with a Rancor, maybe with one other thing. But it does feel and look exactly like that. So, props. It came off exactly how it was supposed to. And of course, every Jurassic movie has to have their T-Rex moment. And I did enjoy the T-Rex scene here, aside from him kind of just disappearing behind the raft. But we're still gonna check that box off. And the stealth scenes, of course, which I'm a little torn on. I don't think this movie did it so much, as some of the other movies did. And then we have the plot, or lack thereof. The main storyline is basically go to a mystery island. It's completely off limits, banned from every government on Earth. We're gonna extract some samples for a pharmaceutical guy and give it to him. Let him sell it and make money off it, and that's it. It's a movie. It kind of tries to spice things up by giving us an A plot and a B plot, which it doesn't need, and this movie didn't earn that complexity at all. It barely supports one storyline, let alone 2 branches of that same storyline. But the cast does a fine job, honestly, and I didn't really think any of the characters were awful or anything, but they don't leave much of an impact. That said, though, the humor does work for me more often than not. Say there was only a handful of jokes I could probably count on one hand that I think fell flat. On the other hand, you got a bunch that did work. The chemistry between these characters feels real, and I think these funny moments between them land, like I said, most of the time. So yeah, it is a fun movie, but it's also a very predictable one. There's definitely some silly choices, though. Like towards the end of the movie, there's the scene where they slap on like the Hollywood Mexico filter. The one where everything just is yellow for no reason, except they're not even in Mexico. They're just south. It's just a regular sunrise, but they kind of went all into this yellow tint. I'm sitting there, I'm like, why is the sun this yellow? You know, that's not a spoiler either. You know, it's just weird lighting choices. I felt like I had to point out. It's the very last scene of the film. Here's the thing, though. I'm coming back to my previous point that I stated earlier. This might be my biggest issue. This movie feels like it's leaning into the monsterverse. We're talking like Kong Skull Island levels of just come for the creatures, ignore the humans. We're looking like Godzilla vs. Kong, Godzilla vs. Kong 2, and that works for those movies. Jurassic has always at least tried to pretend that it cared about the people, you know, like the original Jurassic Park, that had a pretty good story. I don't recall the second or third movies, but even Jurassic World, you know, kind of gave us something to latch onto character-wise. But this, it feels like a watered-down Skull Island, and even that movie wasn't amazing. And that's another thing. Jurassic's universe, like I said, has always had a focus on this storytelling, whether that story is great or not so much. Dominion, there's still a focus on this human aspect. It's never slipped this far into the monster focus like Godzilla vs. Kong, King of the Monsters. This one does that. You know, with these mutated dinosaurs essentially being the focal points instead of the real dinosaur species that are featured, there's a new focus on these animals and not a story. Once again, not a spoiler, but you can tell who's going to survive within the first 15 minutes of the film. You can predict every beat. And I hate to say it, but it's kind of trying to just coast on the vibes and dino fights. And that's not what Jurassic fans are wanting from these films. I want to care more about the story. You know, I really wanted to care more about the story. The cast does a solid work with what they're given. The characters themselves just aren't developed enough for you to emotionally invest in them. There are moments where the film almost wants you to cry or feel something, but I never connected. To its credit, there's some decent tension in some scenes. You know, there's some moments where I was fully locked in, but overall this movie sits pretty squarely in the middle of the road. It's not bad by any means. I think it's good, but it's not great. It's entertaining. It's not anything special. It's a fun watch with killer visuals, but it could have and should have been way more. So, yeah, let me know what you thought about Jurassic World Rebirth if you have not. If you have seen it yet. Don't tell me if you haven't seen it. I'm kidding. I want to know your opinion. This has been spoiler free, so you know, preferably spoiler free, so we can kind of keep it calm down there for anyone who's watching this, wanting to head into the movie on their own. But with all that being said, you made it this far, so come on. You're not subscribed? Why not? You're already here. Thank you all so much for tuning in to today's video, and if you did enjoy it, please leave it a like, because it really does help out the channel so much. And I'm all wrapped up, so I will see you all in the next one. Peace.